ballot where people can vote yes or no. Of course, if a majority of them vote yes, the initiative passes and it becomes law. If a majority of them vote no, then at that point it is killed and it does not become law. But the trick on this is, it's direct democracy is where you're not using politicians. The people wrote it, the people collected the signatures, the people put it on the ballot, and ultimately the people voted it in. So that's what an initiative is. You started with recall. Say that again, Amir, since we're talking about recall.
Well, they got a certain amount of signatures from the registered voters, and then they can fire a governor and yeah, pretty much. They can fire the officials in the state.
It's actually very, very close. Kind of the same thing as an initiative. Do you remember the governor that I had given you as the example of a recall?
California.
Who was the governor that got recalled, removed? Gray Davis. Save us from Davis was the slogan. Gray Davis had not broken any laws, but he had mismanaged some California money, or at least it was perceived that he had mismanaged some California money. And in fact, what they did is that they drafted a recall. Should Gray Davis, or Gray Davis should be recalled, parentheses, removed from office. And then at that point, they went around and collected the signatures, just like you said. In California, again, 3, 4, 5%, right in that range. It's not a big percentage of registered voters. The Board of Elections validated these signatures, and then almost immediately they had a special election, and the only question was, should Gray Davis be recalled, parentheses, removed from office? If you voted no, that means you're voting for Gray Davis to stay. If you vote yes, he should be removed, then you've got at that point to pick the next candidate. And do you remember some of the names of some of the people that we talked about? Anybody?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold Schwarzenegger became the governor. Anybody else? Go ahead. Richard Simmons, who may have may not been that exercise guy. Anybody else?
Angeline.
I'm sorry?
I think her name was Angeline.
Angeline, I hear you. Aaron, remembering the pole dancing stripper. Any others that jump? Yeah, turn around and zoom in on him. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, good job. That's a good job. Anybody else remember? There was Angeline, there was Richard Simmons, there was the governor.
That's a porn star.
There was a porn star, Mary Carey Cook, who was actually on the ballot on top of what little man? Gary Coleman from Different Strokes fame. Larry Flint had actually run. And then if you remember, of course, he being of Hustler magazine, then there were several others in there. There was a tribal chairman, a cigarette retailer, a sumo wrestler, and I had given you the idea of rule by the people, direct democracy. We're not using politicians. And I guess the point was, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it. And I think I had asked the classes, would you be comfortable if a porn star was your governor? And many of you were excited about this idea until I said porn star. Oh no, not direct democracy, if this is what it's going to be. But that is initiative and that is recall, both of them examples of direct democracy. Any other questions from the chapter 1? Go ahead. What do y'all remember about those 3 presidential elections that I put up at the very, very beginning?
That you don't necessarily mean that you win by...
You don't have the majority?
Yeah.
The question or the term that I had put in the outline was majority rule question mark. And I had given you the 1992, the 1996, and the 2000 presidential election. And if you remember, what was the problem in 2000?
The governor of Florida was...
Okay, Bush cheated. He yells out on tape. This will be good. Bush's brother was the governor of Florida, the state that decided it. Actually, the issue was Al Gore got more popular vote. More people voted for him. However, George W. became president according to the Electoral College. That was the rules, and people got upset about it, but that's always the way that the rule has been. And what I had suggested to you was, it really didn't matter that year had it been Bush or Gore. A majority of the American people voted against the man that became president because neither one of them got 50%. Now, when we went back to 96, it was William Jefferson Clinton running for re-election. Do you remember the man that he ran against?
Bob Dole.
Bob Dole. Do you remember what percentage of the vote Bill Clinton got?
48 maybe?
49%. In other words, a majority of the American people voted against the man that became president. And in 92, William Jefferson Clinton challenged the sitting president, Bush Daddy, if you remember. And do you remember what percentage of the vote he got that year? 43. In other words, Clinton, got 57%, almost 60% of the American people voted against him. And the question was, majority rule, question mark. We have this idea of thinking, if I get the most votes, I win. But in a lot of elections in American history, the president never actually got a majority. So it doesn't always work the way that we think that it does, or maybe that it should. Do y'all have any questions about any of the other terms? Go ahead.
Equality.
Freedom, order, and equality kind of go together. Do y'all remember what the concept of equality was?
Everyone should.
Government should treat everybody the same, and some of you valued that. Do you remember what the key word was for order?
If you're willing to give us some of your liberty to maintain that order.
Okay, the idea that some people want to be equal, some people want to be safe, they want to be protected, and they would be willing to give up certain individual rights and freedoms in order to make sure that they're protected. And what was freedom? Because many of y'all seem to like that. Freedom?
To be able to do what you want to do.
To be able to do what you want to do. And if you remember what I had said with these three is, freedom, order, and equality all sound like they should be on the same team, but they end up butting up against each other an awful lot. And the example that I had given you was that if everybody is swinging their arms, that in fact, the more that we swing our arms, and you don't have to film this, but the idea is that sooner or later, somebody is going to get clocked. And if people are getting clocked, then if you give too much freedom, people don't really have any freedom at all. In order to have order, you take away from freedom. In order to have freedom, you got to take away from order. And then equality kind of jumps around and slithers in between those two. But that's kind of the tug of war we've had the whole class. Go ahead.
So I'm just going back, but recall and initiative are kind of examples of
Direct democracy. Yeah.
democracy. So are we going to have to define them separately, or what do you think?
To be honest with you, both of those could be pretty good individual short answer questions if you got that. But they could be kind of straight definition questions too.
What about referendum?
Referendum,
It's not on.
don't worry about it. Do you want me to test you on
No,
referendum? Because
I'm
if you
asking
want
you.
me,
You
turn
should
around. If you
answer.
want me to, yeah, go and get
I
her.
don't.
If you want referendum on there, I will put it on there for you,
don't
beyond.
want it. I'm just asking. 'Cause
Okay, if you don't want it, I won't put it on there.
Fine.
Okay, let's go back to chapter 1 articles really quick, because we actually dealt with a couple articles from chapter 2. But just to hit on these relatively quick, you'll notice there's the Catholic school teacher, and you'll notice there's the Texas cheerleaders that are up there. Do y'all have any questions about either of these two articles? Catholic school teacher, or go ahead, Ash.
So, what terms go with those articles?
I think with the Catholic school article, that one was dealing with politics. And actually the Texas cheerleader one was too. And if you remember with politics, what I had mentioned to y'all was basically the idea that sometimes people can look at the exact same thing and they can see something that is very, very different. And sometimes we have to agree on what we're fighting about before we can actually get a solution for it. And that's oftentimes difficult to do. Yeah.
Are the articles going to be on the exam, or is it just the ideas within them?
You know, articles usually translate into really good short answer questions. So I'm not going to try and trick you with okay, blah, blah, blah article, but I'll probably try and ask you to explain it. Yes?
Can you go for the Texas cheerleaders again?
What was the Texas cheerleader article? Do y'all remember the high school that it was?
In Texas somewhere.
Okay, in Texas somewhere. That narrows it down beyond. Yes, maybe I will put
You really
referendum on
want the
there.
actual high school?
Well, I want you to show me what you know. Give me a reason to make sure that you get the grade that you want. What was the high school? Starts with a K.
Kennedy?
No.
Zoom in. Kuntz High School. It was Kuntz High School in small town Texas. And basically, what was it that the cheerleaders were doing? There was one banner that you saw an awful lot of. Do you remember what it said? Actually, Zoe, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I don't remember exactly
Is
what it
if-
said, but it was something like, if God God is on our side, or if God like is supporting us, then nobody else, then that's.
You're actually really, really
I don't
close.
know.
If God is for us, then who will be or who can be against us is basically what it said. And this was from where, Zoe? This quote. Bible. Cheerleaders were basically publishing, or they were posting, I should say, biblical scriptures, right? And where were they showing these on this public high school ground? On the football grounds. When at the football stadium? Anybody?
Before the games.
Before the games, for like 30 minutes?
No, at the entrance of.
Okay, how? Explain it to me, Christian.
Because they'll have the banner up and then the players are going to run right through them.
Yeah, for basically the team running on the field, they would have a banner that was up there that would have a biblical scripture. And these cheerleaders, they were doing this to try and instill, I don't know, some team spirit, some camaraderie, this idea of us against them, but we can win kind of a thing. The players would run through the banner would be disposed of, so maybe it would show for a minute, maybe not even a minute, depending upon how fast the team ran out on the field. Okay, what was the problem? What was the group? Do you remember the group?
They were in Wyoming, they were.
Why does it always have to be Wyoming?
It's
It is.
Wyoming.
It's a W, but it's not Wyoming. Wisconsin. What was it in Wisconsin? What was that group called?
Freedom of religion.
Freedom from Religion. Freedom from Religion Foundation. That's who this was. And what was their argument, these girls posting these scriptures like this?
They were imposing like Christianity to like other students.
They were imposing Christianity. Why was it important that the cheerleaders were the ones that were showing these banners?
Because the
It
staff
could
can
be
get
a school
involved.
official.
They were
They can-
representing the school.
Why would you say that they're representing the school?
Because it was at a school event.
At a school event,
They're wearing school uniforms.
school uniforms. They were on school grounds with these scriptures at a school event in school uniforms. The argument was, how could they not be representing the school? And this looks like the school is basically pushing Christianity onto these young, impressionable minds. What did the cheerleaders say?
You were doing it on their own time.
They were doing it on their own time. And?
You were using their own money.
What's that?
It's their own money.
It was their own money, so they said, we are making these these banners on our own time, with our own money, in our own free will. Yeah, it makes me nervous when people do that too. And then they were saying, in fact, that this was their freedom of, because somebody said it. Freedom of speech. It is our right to be able to say what we want. We just happen to be saying these religious things, but if it's not about religion, it's about our speech, and we're doing this voluntarily. What did the court say? The courts let them do it. The courts let them do it on appeal too. And ultimately, they did accept this freedom of speech idea. What else came about from this? What did the community think? Community was overwhelmingly in favor of it based upon their Facebook page. What did the governor of Texas say?
He was in favor.
Governor Perry was very much in favor and threw his support in on this. And what did other local schools start to do?
Same thing.
Their own scripture banners as well. So yeah, this was actually protected as legal. Does anybody have any question about Michelle McCusker and the Catholic school teacher?
She lost twice, right?
Who?
The Catholic school teacher.
She lost twice?
Like, she lost the first time, and on appeal, she lost again.
Yeah, she did not win the case. That's
What
right.
state was that? Like, was that a state?
Well, it was-
Anybody remember the state?
New York.
Somebody say Wyoming. No, it
New
wasn't
York.
Wyoming.
Was it New York?
It was New York. Yeah, in the fine state of New York, Michelle McCusker was the Catholic school teacher. And what was it that she did?
She was pregnant out of wedlock.
Got pregnant out of wedlock. The Catholic school fired her. Why?
Because that's against their beliefs.
Breach of contract. What part of the contract did she breach?
Upholding moral Christian views, values.
Upholding moral Christian views and values. Upholding core teachings of the Catholic faith. Make sure that you're clear on this. And, go through all of the facts and whatnot. But yeah, she did lose because technically it was breach of contract. What was her argument?
That men can do that, yeah.
Go ahead, Christian.
Like she said, it was discrimination because men could have sex out of wedlock and Or they could.
Did you say Matt could have sex out of wedlock?
I said men.
Oh, I was about to say, who's Matt? That's a new one. Okay.
He could hypothetically.
Okay, Matt could hypothetically.
And then they wouldn't be able to prove that because he couldn't get pregnant, so they couldn't fire him.
Her argument was that if a man had sex out of wedlock, in other words, did the same thing that she did, the man would likely not be fired because the school would never know, but the woman would always end up showing, and if the woman showed, then at that point she would be disciplined. Why did the court say that discrimination did not happen?
She signed a contract.
Well, she signed a contract.
Not every woman.
What's that?
Not every woman gets pregnant after.
No, she was.
Yeah.